Robert, it goes down.
It don't. It don't go down.
Robert, it goes down.
No, it don't.
It do go down.
Oh! Don't!
As predicted in the last video, August was not a very good month. But before we get to that, I want to make one thing very clear. What often happens after I release these videos is I get people using these videos as evidence that the Air Force is doing horribly compared to some division, or even that I'm making an extremely bad decision, and that is what is causing our current situation. This is not true, and in fact is an example of what's known as the surveillance paradox. The reason that it may look like the Air Force is doing worse compared to other divisions in these videos is that I collect extensive data on all aspects of the Air Force, and when there are problems, I point them out. But the thing is that none of the other divisions are doing anything like what I do here in the Air Force. And in fact, I'd argue that despite all our flaws, that the Air Force is doing the best out of any division in EIG right now. A good way to measure this would be with activity. I do track Air Force activity every week, and it does seem that we are the most active, although obviously there's no way to prove we are the most active, unless maybe someone was crazy enough to track the activity of all 318 members of other divisions for a week. So anyways, last week I tracked the activity of all 318 members of other divisions. Now before I show you the results though, I want to preface that the Air Force activity-wise is doing the worst it has done since April. Despite that, we still beat every other single division in activity. So now as you watch the rest of the video, remember that although things may look bad, I assure you every division has it far worse. We will start with the overall member count of the pilots. Now firstly, I want to bring attention to the two lines on screen. This month, it was decided by the greater EIG High Command that the Air Force is no longer allowed to exile people for inactivity. Although in my opinion, I do not believe inactive people should be counted towards the member count. Therefore, there are now two lines. The red line represents our member count, excluding everyone who is strike 3 or above, and the black line represents the member count, including those people. Our goal set in last month was to simply maintain our member count, and as you can see, that completely failed. Overall, we saw mass stagnation throughout the month of August in nearly every aspect. As you can see here, almost all the rank lines are completely flat, which signifies that barely anyone was ranking up throughout the month. One aspect that we didn't do terribly at is trainings and deployment, as we actually had pretty similar numbers compared to last, with us having 202 announced and 107 logged. Now on to the gains and losses. We gained 12, yes, only 12 new members throughout this month from tryouts. And on top of that, despite them deciding to no longer let us exile inactives in the middle of the month, we still lost 27 people in August. As for the general distribution of ranks, this is absolutely the way that I'd say pilots is failing the most at right now. We simply have too many NCOs compared to inlet. And on top of that, our lack of officer staff has hit a fever pitch, as the pilots lost another officer this month, not to mention the complete inactivity of Amman. Hope has been felt, as recently several of our NCOs have entered OCS, but with the absurd pass rates, I wouldn't be surprised if basically all of them fail and give up. Gianni passed, and Fallfire might pass, but that's probably the most we'll get anytime soon. As far as promotions go, I genuinely don't even have words for how bad this is. Out of the 68 promotions that were handed out to pilots this month, I handed out 100% of them. Not even to mention how, despite only becoming the Air Commodore and becoming involved with Airborne in the middle of the month, I still ended up representing over 40% of promotions in Airborne. I really don't think I need to explain why this is a terrible situation to be in, when an entire division is relying on 2 people to manage promotions for that entire division. Well, one person leaves, and suddenly all the promotions for an entire division are managed by one person. And if that person leaves from all the stress, well then all of a sudden the entire fucking division has no one to promote anyone. When it comes to the flight exams, it's the same story. Even though I keep trying to find NCOs to help with this, similar to the inactive officers, they just aren't doing it and everything just falls on 1 or 2 people. For the host distribution, this certainly isn't terrible, but it's also not very good, because if 1 or 2 of these NCOs leave, then suddenly that's 20-30 less trainings that are being hosted that month. Now speaking of hosts though, I want to give a big congratulations to ProMine284 for being the first person to beat me in host of the month since April. Next is the officer poll. This month has mainly covered pilot related stuff, although starting next month I'm going to start including airborne as well, and because of that they were included in this month's officer poll. And also 346 and 41st were polled separately, as it was suggested to not have squadrons voting on other squadrons' officers. Additionally, since I like seeing my own rating, I added a new high command section to all of the polls. Since there were 3 polls though, that means that me and Russ have 3 different ratings which I'll average out. Russ' overall average rating was 5.59, my overall average rating was 9.22, and here are the rest of the officers. To any airborne watching, I do want to point out that I find it extremely funny that you guys voted your own commander lower than Russ. Not even to mention Trasher's insane score of 9.96. Lastly, we'll go over the news of August, as well as plans and goals for September. Not much happened during August, to be honest. I've been hosting weekly game nights to try and help boost activity, although I also tried to set up more air scrim, which completely failed, as not a single person even reacted to the schedule. In the air show, we honestly just can't get enough people for that right now. I do want to say though, that big things are being planned behind the scenes right now, in regards to V6 and the Airforce. We aren't allowed to leak anything, but just know that these planned changes are the coolest shit that I have seen in my over 3 years in this group's Airforce. In regards to behind the scenes planning though, I do want to bring up this comment left on the 41st officer polls about Russ. As someone who's in all of the Airforce group chats and can see behind these curtains, no. And when it comes to all these massive changes being planned right now, he has not yet sent a single message. In fact, he hasn't even spoken in days, and to my knowledge, no one has even been able to contact him, which is not at all out of the ordinary. Anyways, for September, we will be having an inspection. I don't know when yet, since I'm trying to pick the date with Russ, and he just isn't responding, but likely it'll be around the middle of the month. Our goal for September will be to get Airforce to a total of 100 members, which shouldn't be that hard since we can no longer exile inactives. Anyways, that is all. See ya.